Colorado has emerged at the forefront of the environmentalist movement in various ways as the state's natural beauty and resources are on display, serving as a constant reminder to preserve the pristine landscape for our future generations through sustainable practices. Rising numbers of nonprofits, organizations, and smaller local entities are turning their efforts towards a focus of action in manifesting sustainable environmental practices, creating a collaborative space for involvement and increasing interest for the preservation of the environment. The Alliance Center in Denver is a nonprofit that represents this focus on action and has created ties with other organizations across the United States to collaborate in efforts to preserve natural resources via sustainable practices. I interviewed Isabel Mendoza, who is the program's manager at the Alliance Center nonprofit located in Denver, Colorado. Isabel is currently working on and managing a program called the Sustainability Skills Initiative. Isabel mentions in the interview that this program and her main focus is on diversifying the demographic groups involved in the environmentalist movement, bringing a holistic attitude towards issues surrounding sustainability through rectified governmental policy or societal practices, and outreach for students aiming to be leaders in the environmentalist movement in the future. Isabel explains the aims of the Alliance Center as the group can be divided into two parts, being the full nonprofit organization operating within the local community, and the on-site building which houses the offices of tenants affiliated with the organization. This was done so that all of the different groups or organizations working with the Alliance Center would be able to share an office building while collaborating together to achieve common environmentalist goals. The building is significant because it was meticulously designed to be as energy efficient and green as possible. Isabel describes these green initiatives in our discussion.
If we are all able to work in the same physical space, we have a better chance to actually working together. So the building itself, that's where the idea started, right? Bringing nonprofits, and we have about 50 tenant organizations, some of them larger than others. We have large organizations like the Sierra Club and Conservation Colorado who are housing the building, but we have other much smaller organizations that probably just have like one or two desks in the Alliance Center as well. But then the idea around the building grew to convert the building in a kind of an example of sustainability in action. And what that means is that when they did the retrofitting, they decided to make this old building very as sustainable as can possibly be.
Isabel mentions that every detail was carefully thought out. We have a microgrid in the roof. We have a partnership with a national renewable energy laboratory to increase the power and effectiveness of that flow system. Isabel further explains how many aspects of the building can be broken down into systems where the data can be studied via their partnership with this laboratory, effectively creating a prime model for sustainable buildings within cities. The building received a LEED certification from the state of Colorado, declaring the building to have one of the highest energy efficiency ratings. This is represented in the building's use of sustainability sourced materials, renewable energy grid, limited waste, chemicals used to clean the building, and solar charged battery storage. The organizations in collaboration with the Alliance Center, such as Western Resource Advocates, Recycle Colorado, Conservation Colorado, COSA, and others, are centered around the topics of clean renewable energy, water conservation, minimizing excess waste, sustainable cities, and government policy. The importance of understanding these environmental topics and enforcing sustainable practices in the future is paramount, as our human interaction with the world should be considered in terms of negative impacts on the environment. Environmentalism at its core reflects the reality that we need to collaborate as a society to preserve our Earth through efficient, practices of energy conservation, waste management, and limiting our pollutant emissions. There can be a scientific case made to argue that all of these topics could be functioning in a manner that is currently impacting the environment in a negative way, to suggest that we need to follow the lead of the environmentalist movement and improve sustainability practices. If we continue to neglect new findings or studies, then the point of no return could arise due to a collective ignorance that ignores the phenomenon of climate change for too long. The fact of the matter, aided by observed science, is that pollution is a problem that manifests in all of our natural resources, including water, air, plants, gas, and oil. The Science of Environmental Pollution, a book written by Frank Spellman, details 20 forms of pollutants which negatively impact our natural environmental resources. These include pesticides, refractory and criteria pollutants affecting the air or wastewater, pass-through and persistent pollutants affecting water sources. In terms of sustainable practices to mitigate harmful emissions of pollutants into our air, which causes depletion of the ozone layer, there have been findings to show that increased chlorofluorocarbons harmfully impact the environment. CFCs, or chlorofluorocarbons, can be emitted into the air and rise to the ozone layer due to contemporary refrigeration, air conditioning, and insulation, along with other sources. The environmentalist movement is critical in maintaining optimal sustainable systems, actions mitigating the negative effects of humans on the environment, interests in environmentally conscious studies, and most importantly, the collaboration of all individuals, organizations, and communities to participate in the effort to create a more sustainable environment for the future.